Hey, my lovely lumps. So, this episode is part two of a three-part series. So, I'd highly encourage you to go back and listen to the part one episode before this one if you haven't already. There's a few little continuity or contextual issues that you might run into if you launch into this one, although it'll all still make sense. But there's definitely a lot of juice in the first part, and we start talking about the topic of this episode in part one as well, where we start touching upon neurodivergence and how Hannah's brain works and how they've been discovering more and more about this through their journey being diagnosed with ADHD and autism. So this is a really dope conversation. I think more people should be having this conversation. And I hope you enjoy. I'm not going to say too much more other than, dive in and enjoy the sort of ASMR-esque sounds of our aquascape in this episode. This one's going to be all about neurodivergence. And then the next part is going to be about abortion and miscarriage. So we're dealing with some pretty meaty conversations in this series, and I'm really excited to share them with you because fuck, I love these conversations and I get so much from them, and I just feel like, I think my listener base, if I know you well, you're going to really enjoy this. And it's of course going to have the classic, vulnerable shares and personal stories and anecdotes, but also the giggles and the playfulness and the irreverence. That's pretty standard, pretty on brand for the Labia Lounge and me and my friends. So I think it's like a really meaty and serious conversation that we're having, and a really important one that's dealing with big stuff, but that's also being done in a way that's super approachable and accessible and just fascinating to kind of be a fly on the wall and listen to this chat that happened in my bathroom. So enjoy.
This program is brought to you by Pussy Magnets.
Pussy Magnet.
Welcome, my lovely lumps, or should I say lovely labs. I'm so thrilled to have you here in the Labia Lounge. We're going to yarn about all things sexuality, womanhood, relationships, intimacy, holistic health, and everything in between. Your legs. Ooh, can't help myself. Anyway, we're going to have vag loads of real chats with real people about real shit. So buckle up, you're about to receive the sex ed that you never had and have a bloody good laugh while you're at it. Before we dive in, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. It's an absolute privilege to be living and creating dope podcast content in Naarm, and I pay respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. Now, if y'all are ready, let's flap and do this. Oh my God, is there such thing as too many vagina jokes in the one intro? Whatever, it's my podcast. I'm leaving it in.
Don't panic, you're not broken. Your sex education was a piece of shit. Get your flaps out and pull up a couch. It's the Labia Lounge.
Hey gang, just before we jump into this episode, I wanted to offer you an opportunity to access my new mini course for free before I start charging for it in future. It's for people with vulvas and it's quick to complete. It's all about demystifying the female body and pleasure anatomy and getting some basic fundamentals to understand your body better. It's called Pussy Pleasure Secrets, Your Roadmap to Bedroom Bliss. You can grab it on the freebies page of my website or in the show notes. It's a great little free resource to kind of dip your toe in or act as a bit of a taster for my work. So if you've ever been curious about this sort of thing and you just don't know where to start, or you want a really quick, easy, accessible, non-threatening way to get the ball rolling and start working on this stuff, this is a great place to start. Cool. All right, so part two of our episode, we've now migrated from the public swimming pool to the tub, and it is officially a tub talk now.
Yeah,
Before it was like a bit of a swimming pool is like a huge tub,
totally.
but we weren't in it.
We weren't in
We
it,
were
no.
beside it. So now we're in a body of water.
Oh.
And I think we're going to talk about autism
Yeah.
and maybe ADHD and just, yeah, how you've been finding it adjusting to this like new knowledge of yourself and like this whole new way of like looking at how you look at the world. And I don't really know where to start with questions, but I really find it interesting when you talk about that sort of thing.
Okay. I'm so happy to talk about this, but I feel like it's been such a big thing for me. I have so much to say. I'm like having your problem. I'm like, where do I start? What do you think is like, can you recall anything I've said or like I know you asked a very clever question at the start. Can you also make a more simple form of that question so I can like have a more narrow?
I don't even think it did ask a question.
You did. You did.
Just now.
I don't know. I felt like you gave me a prompt. It was very good. Just give me a simple prompt.
Okay. How this should come
I know, this is like
my job.
Podcast interviewing.
I know.
It's Tub Talks though. You're kind of off duty.
Exactly.
Kind of after hours.
Exactly. I am not like evening times. My brain doesn't work. I don't do work things. No way. I record on my podcast in the morning when my brain's like fried-ish.
Yeah.
So suck a dick. No, just joking. All right, I'll think of a question. I mean, what have I found super interesting about your journey? Oh, all of it. I feel like when you just get on a roll talking about. Okay. Example. Because this might be easier than asking a question. I think we just like have a conversation, which is what this is all about. But I remember when we went to that super funny, cute, like fun cosplay rave. And we're like tourists in this scene. And like we had this big chat about eye contact because there's like definitely a higher proportion of neurodivergent people at those sorts of events. And you really notice them because you are one and have been we're like really learning rapidly about like you've just been diagnosed and you were like, it was on the brain, you know?
Totally.
Plus, you you observe people to like an extent that I can't relate to.
That's crazy. I didn't really think about that.
Like sometimes, like we would have an interaction with someone at like a festival or party and you'd be like, oh my God, like his body language was like, he was so into you or he felt this way. And I was like, what? I didn't even know that. What do you mean? And you're like, oh, well, I noticed that he did this with his like body and he was angling his posture towards you. And then he was also like kind of like looking at you, you know, like you
Totally. I do that a lot. Yeah.
And then, and then the thing that we're talking about at this cosplay party was like eye contact and how you had to, well, like often autistic people find eye contact really uncomfortable and unnatural. So it doesn't happen organically for you. So, you know, as a way to mask and like fit in and basically like assimilate and mirror the people, like you're like quite conscious of how often you blink so that you don't blink too much, but you also don't blink not enough and just stare them down and then you look at their eyes but then look away for a bit to give them a break and like it's this whole strategic thing.
It's this whole strategic thing and honestly it's not even like how much you blink. It's just like I really feel like I don't know what to do with my eyes. It's almost like I don't understand how other people master the art of looking at someone but not death staring them, because one thing that I feel like me and, you know, some of my neurodivergent friends have is we kind of like can have this like crazy eyes when we give you eye contact because like if I'm looking at your eyes, I'm fucking looking at your eyeballs and I am listening to you and I'm like studying this right now, you know? It's too much for a casual chat, you know? And if it's not a casual chat, maybe that's fine, but if it is a casual chat, it's like I'm just doing all these mathematical equations in my head to work out like how I should angle my face so that I'm not like one-on-one doing like a eye contact exercise in like some kind of intimacy retreat. Like that's how it feels.
Yeah, wow. And like I remember you saying like you'd been learning that because for a lot of people on the spectrum, sustained eye contact is really like uncomfortable and not your kind of first instinct when talking to someone. You know, like then a lot of people deliberately try harder to give more eye contact and wind up overshooting the mark and like staring like a little bit too intensely, which makes then the other person feel uncomfortable. And then all of the kind of,
it's like a weird
natural cues of like body language and facial expressions, the wires are getting crossed because you're not speaking the same language.
Totally. That's what it is. It's that you're not speaking the same language. And I think that's a really great way to put it. And I'll share like a story that I really like. So on the weekend, I went to like Neve's. My best friend Neve turned 30 and I went to their birthday weekend and there were like 7 people there, I think. And it was just this amazing group of people. And, you know, everyone was friends instantly. And one of the things that really helped tie everyone together is like, there was a lot of neurodivergence there. So it's like you meet someone and immediately how you both talk kind of just lines up. You know, if you have ADHD and you talk to someone who's also kind of just crazy following all these tangents, it feels great. And you instantly like are drawn to each other. So it's kind of like that. Anyways, one of these people that I met was called Miku, and she was doing support work with a client who has really, I guess, what we would term like severe autism in terms of like his verbal communication is really, really limited. Like he kind of can't talk. But she was describing his expression of joy when he saw this machine that made bubbles. And she said, like, you should have seen his face. His eyes were like huge. His eyebrows are like pulled back so far. His mouth's open and he's like shaking his hands. Like he's losing his shit watching these bubbles. And it's such a visual language that it's like, yeah, maybe to the average kid, it's like weird to not duck and do all that instead. But it's still like a way of communicating. And so I guess to me, it feels really apparent when I'm talking to someone who's speaking my language and when I'm talking to someone who's speaking the language everyone else speaks, which is the one that I've learned, but like it doesn't feel like a natural process. Like it feels like all of my social processes are like cerebral. Like they are like things I have to figure out. And I didn't even realize that that wasn't normal until I talked to my psychiatrist and he was like, this comes effortlessly for most people. Like they don't think about how to angle their body when they're talking to someone. Their body naturally just sits correctly in space and doesn't look strange, which I find insane because that stuff is not subconscious. I have to like coordinate everything.
Why do you think you would look strange if you just sat how you felt like sitting without thinking about how to angle your body to look?
Well, see, this is the thing is, it's not always about like inhibitions. It can be, right? It definitely can be about inhibitions. And one thing that I've started doing with my body, which I really like, is I just randomly do yoga poses. And I often do that like when I'm having a conversation with a friend. And I find it like a really kind of grounding sensory stim if I'm just doing a bunch of like warrior 2 peaceful warriors. Mm-hmm. I feel kind of good about that. Yeah. But a lot of the weirdness in the body language of an autistic person comes from stress to the nervous system, because you have a person whose nervous system's like a really high state of agitation. And so a lot of the weird kind of jerkiness of the hands and stuff, it's often like, for me at least, and you know, people that I know, it's like muscular tension. You're just really fucking stressed and your shoulders are tense. And also autism is associated with just kind of like coordination disorders and coordination. So it's not necessarily like you're too worried to let go. It's like if you're not holding yourself like a robot, you kind of clunk around in this really odd way because your link between your brain and your body is different to everyone else's.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so interesting.
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, like, it sounds cool, but I kind of can't believe that I lived my whole life kind of knowing that my brain worked like this. And I never thought, like,
well,
I mean, I
what
was
that you're swimming in. Why would you even?
Like, exactly.
And until recently, with like the internet and fucking TikTok therapists, like we did not know much about neurodivergence, and like we just, it would have never even occurred to me to like look within and analyze my own behavior and the way my brain works and consider that maybe I had ADHD or autism or something. Like,
you just have the brain you have and you make the most of it.
And because you've really quite successfully gotten by and masked and been like outwardly very successful at like the kind of classic academia and like fucking exams and school and what you've managed to kind of
totally. And I mean, like, because of masking, it's convincing enough to other people. Like, there are some people whose body language or social skills you meet and you're just like instantly like, okay, this person's on the spectrum. Because people who, like, I had a friend recently tell me about this person that they met, and this guy, if he sees a number, he'll just like call out the factors of that number. So he'll be like, 24, the factors of that are 8 and 3 and 6 and 4. And I was like, that's something that you see and you're like, okay, autism. That's obvious, you know? But if you've kind of learned how to copy other people's body language.
And do Australian accents. Like,
it's
kind
of like people don't question it. And this is where the term, which, you know, like people don't love to use it, this is where the term high functioning autism comes in, because the idea is that like you're functioning highly
according to like society's
standards of like, you know, and it's very ableist really. It is really ableist. And I also feel like it's not very descriptive, because high functioning autism is basically like, from the outside you seem to be able to do some of the things you need to do to stay alive. You're not like visibly needing heaps of help, like cooking your own food or something, like basic. But all of that comes at a cost. And I feel like part of the reason I worked all this out is because not knowing this about my own brain left me in a place where I was just like racked with chronic stress and anxiety and pain and chronic health conditions. And you know that all of those things come together in a bundle, but the more I've learned about all of this neurodivergent stuff, on days when I feel that really intense autistic burnout, those are the days when my chronic pain flares up, and I can feel in my body how that turned into Crohn's disease, you know, like decades of suppressing chronic stress and anxiety and pain. It's it snowballs, right?
Well, if your nervous system is in that state, like, oh my God, dude, like it's so insane that you've just like, and this is exactly what you were just talking about, but like you've functioned so well and passed or like gotten by.
Exactly. That's what it is. Like, it's passing. You're so right. That's a great word for it. That's a great word for it.
Yeah. Well, it's like with like straight passing people or like trans people that passed.
Yeah.
As the gender that they are displaying. You know, it is a word that's so, it's like it's like. Ooh, inherent in that term is like passing according to fucking whom and what. And like, it's just like, it's passing enough to make people feel comfortable enough around you.
Yeah. And it's passing to the standards like you're trying to escape, or the society that you're trying to escape from anyway. So it kind of feels like, you know, it's weird.
And I mean, I know like there was I've seen it a bunch in like movies with black actors and that are based around black communities and culture, and like the kind of passing, like the more like pale skinned kind of passing, you know, quote unquote, characters get a bit of flack because it's like you can traverse. It's like Indigenous Australians, how like they did take the lighter skinned ones or the half caste or what. Oh my God, it's so insane to think that like people threw around all this language really like commonly when I was in primary school.
Yeah, totally.
And like I wouldn't have known that was racist. I didn't know what racism was. Conceptually yet. But they would adopt those into Christian families and send them to school, and like they passed well enough to be like considered like worthy of treatment of a white person almost or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like fuck, and then that almost like adds and not that I have any fucking like, I'm not qualified to speak on this really, but it's just fascinating the way that in the movies that I've seen at least, which I'm guessing are somewhat based off like real dialogue that's happened. Is like the darker skinned people can be pretty much a bit like, fuck you guys, like you have it so much easier because you can kind of like walk in the white places and get more opportunities.
Get like a double.
They've got more privilege.
They've got more privilege.
Yeah, the lighter your skin is, even if you're black but you're at different ends of the spectrum, like the lighter your skin is, the more privilege you have.
Totally. And you know what? I think that this is just broadly applies to all of this passing we're talking about, whether it's race or trans or, you know, neurodivergence.
If you fit into a category that people are comfortable with, then you pass for being a real woman if you're a trans woman, or if you don't look Aboriginal, then you're just going to have more privilege and people treat you differently.
Yeah, totally. That's just how it goes. And I feel like Obviously I am actually, now that this has happened to me, I'm quite aware of like the amount of privilege that I have, because I've actually, like had the financial resources to get myself diagnosed, and I have a lot of things in my life that I can lean on for support. So I kind of feel like I pass, and also I have this privilege. So it's actually quite hard, because I'm like, I do a lot of like kind of like unhelpful thinking, like, this should be easy, because like, look, I actually have everything I need, and there's people that have it worse, which is true, right? There absolutely is. But ultimately that shouldn't be a reason to discount your own struggle. Which is what I think in my mind. It's just, sometimes I'm like, am I really that? You always doubt your own.
Of course.
Stuff.
We've been fucking raised on, drink a cup of concrete and harden the fuck up, and women are weak, so prove yourself to be strong. So don't admit weakness. Like, I think you and I have spoken about how we are sort of tomboys, and really love showing to people like, I'm stronger than you think I am. I can change a tire.
Yeah.
I can do shit that you're going to... I'm driving like a big manual van, and like people are like, a girl, a woman, like doing this thing that's usually in the domain of men.
Yeah.
Like, we love lifting fucking furniture, and people being like, oh, you sure it's going to be heavy? And then just fucking lift it up by yourself.
Oh my
It's
God,
like,
powerful. I agree.
So like, I feel like that attitude of like kind of needing to prove or earn respect and as being sort of strong and robust or whatever, even though we're women or we have female bodies, that turns into like you gaslighting yourself about your struggle and be like, oh, it's like, she just not complain, like it's not that bad, I can suck it up, I can get through this. I'm tough.
Yeah, and I think that when you have like a lifetime of not quite knowing how your brain works, and when you don't know how your brain works and you have struggles, you kind of just blame yourself. And so I feel like I have an extra layer like just constantly suppressing things that I want, or things that I initially feel like in my sensory experience that I should respond more thoughtfully to, but then I'm just used to shutting down like completely.
Yeah.
You're
used to having to bypass your needs to kind of continue masking and push past your threshold for like all sorts of things.
Yeah. And the thing is, I actually think that alone in itself is one of the reasons that autistic people tend to kind of go a little bit hard in some areas. Like if you think about like, like an expert athlete, like let's say a rock climber who is climbing rocks and their hands are getting torn to shreds. But if you're kind of used to disconnecting a little bit from your sensory experience, because it's a crazy world out there, that shit of climbing up a rock, it's actually very satisfying. To force yourself, and that's the thing, like there is a bit of sense of like power and satisfaction when you achieve something, and when you force yourself to do something challenging, and it feels like maybe if you're just used to constantly forcing yourself, you just end up fucking forcing yourself all the time. You know?
And like thinking less of yourself because like, and it's also, and in addition to this, like another layer is the whole like, laziness and idleness fear or like aversion that we have as a society. It's like, you got to be productive, you got to be busy.
Yeah, totally.
Proactivity is really respected, and like relaxing is basically seen as lazy or weak or idle, and you're a fucking bum, and like you always could be doing more, should be doing more. So it's like the whole boss bitch culture and the like busy. Yeah, so it's like there's so many things that, I mean, there's this cool account, I think she's like offline now, but I used to follow this account. I think she was called the Nap Ministry, and her whole thing was like how to like slow the fuck down and relax and like reclaim doing nothing and like being relaxed, and like it was activism against busyness, the busyness epidemic.
Yeah.
And like the Nap Ministry, like such a good name.
Nap Ministry is great. That sounds
and I tried
good.
to get her on the potty, I think, and like pretty predictably or unsurprisingly, she was like, yeah, I'm actually just like taking like a bit of a sabbatical right now. Probably like just going to be out for the count for like a few months, maybe more. So like, yeah, I can't say yes to any things. And I'm like, cool. She's looking after her energy. Her whole thing is like saying no to things and doing less.
Totally.
This is her doing less.
I love that for her.
Hey, baby babes. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to pop my head into the lounge here and mention another virtual lounge that I'd love you to get around. It's the Labia Lounge Facebook group that I've created for listeners of the potty to mingle in. There you'll find extra bits and bobs like freebies, behind the scenes, or discounts for offerings from guests who have been interviewed on the podcast. There'll also be, hopefully, inspiring, thought-provoking conversations and support from a community of labial legends like yourself. My vision for this is that it becomes a really supportive, educational, and hilarious resource for you to have more access to me and a safe space to ask questions you can't ask anywhere else. So head over to the links in the show notes or look up the Labia Lounge group in Facebook, and I'll see you in there. And now, back to the episode.
Yeah, it's that. And I think, wait, can we scroll back? What was this ministry from? What were we saying right before this? Because I was going to say something
You've
related.
just been bypassing your body's needs so much and overriding.
Bypassing your body's needs.
And then you get so used to doing that.
Oh, okay. I think what I was going to say is like, yes, all of that's really hard. But I think the thing that makes it really, really hard is when you still kind of manage to pass, and you're not just passing to society, you pass to yourself. You look in the mirror, you're like, there's nothing fucking wrong with you. Why is everything so hard? Why are you so like awkward all the time? Why are you so depressed all the time? Why are you so scared all the time? And you have all this really intense emotional information. And that's one of the things about having autism, is that the way your brain parses emotions is a little bit different. So sometimes it can be hard to like process emotions. At least, you know, I used to, and this is the thing, I used to think, well, like, I'm really self-aware. I've been going to a psychologist for 8 years. But like, that was a process of intellectualizing my emotions. That's why I like going to psychologists, because they help me to like understand my emotions better. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's one of the many reasons. I have a lot of tendencies that it's been helping with. But
also because, you hold yourself and get held to really fucking normcore standards of neurotypical fucking people, and like, because you pass, and everyone's like,
because you pass, and you pass to yourself. And so what ends up happening is you go, okay, well, if there's nothing quote unquote wrong with me, then I must just have some kind of like moral failing or some kind of character flaw that just means I'm shit. You know, you just end up kind of feeling shit. You end up feeling lazy, or you end up feeling like a loser, or you end up feeling like just, you know, it has to be true, because why else would I be so depressed and so like lost and so apathetic and so lonely and so tired and so sick? And you just think of all these things and you're like, well, I must suck. Like I must just be kind of shit at being alive, because I seem to have this shit ton of problems. And then you get diagnosed and you're like, whoa. Because the thing is, once you know what's going wrong with your brain, and I think that this is true for anyone, regardless of if you're going to get a clinical diagnosis or maybe even, you know, fall into the criteria of having autism or ADHD, if you understand what's gone wrong with your brain, you can do something about it. If you just kind of feel shit and you just kind of distract yourself, or you don't kind of think too much about it, you can't ever make progress, you know?
Yeah.
So it feels like when I got diagnosed, I always say it made me feel like I have the instruction manual for my brain for the first time. Because I'm like, okay, cool, I have ADHD, which means that when I'm doing something boring, I'm either going to put on the Shrek soundtrack, because that fucking slaps. Have you heard the Shrek and Shrek 2 soundtracks?
I remember having great stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And like growing up in an ADHD house, my mom used to have cleaning festivals. So she would blast like a huge album, like a big one, and she would just be like, all right, clean as fast as you can, you know? And like, when you know you have ADHD, you're like, shit, that's all I have to do to help myself to clean. And look, I still fucking hate cleaning. I don't always turn on Shrek when I'm, you know, tired at 10 o'clock at night and all my laundry needs to be put away. No, but I do a lot of other things that help me. And I feel like my life is still very, 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 very hard, but now it feels like I'm on the same team as myself. And I don't know all the answers, but like, at least I'm working with myself rather than just judging myself for not being able to perform how I think I should.
Dude, yes. And you've got so much more data now, and you can start putting things in place, trying out different strategies, seeing what works. Because also, like, I guess the a cool thing about how your brain works is that it's perfectly equipped to just special interest the fuck out of autism and ADHD.
I know.
And then learn heaps about it, and then figure out, and you know, you're already doing like yoga teaching and meditation, which you'd already figured out that was like this way that you could get more in your body and actually release some of the tension and soothe your nervous system. So that was a regulation tool already.
Yeah.
Now you can add all of these other, you know, you've been like buying like a bunch of cute little, like not fidget spinners, but like things, tactile things that you can use instead of stimming, to like play with, like, you know, like those Rubik's Cube things, or like little puzzles. And like, you know, that like we had a chat because I was like getting really frazzled by all the movement. We did a video call and you were constantly moving, doing like task after task, or going for a walk, or like constantly moving around. And I was like, whoa, I found that so frazzling. Like it was sizzling my nervous system, and I was struggling to be present to have the conversation. And you're like, oh my God, well, I can't sit still. It feels like my brain is on fire and I'm going to spontaneously combust. I need to be like doing something while I talk. So then we're like, okay, maybe we don't do a video call. We just have a phone call, and then you can put around, do whatever you need to do. And I can do what I need to do to be able to concentrate on the conversation, because our needs were completely different.
Totally.
So now you've got like all this new knowledge. You can make strategies.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what sort of shit have you been changing up since you realized?
Like for both?
Yeah.
Well, I think that, I mean, this is basic. Wearing loops really helps me. Like when I am somewhere in a car, in the city, like anywhere where there's ambient noise, they really, really help me. And I know that sounds basic, but like I wouldn't have known that I had a sound sensitivity until I tried loops for the first time. Because I'm so used to just pushing through. And then I was kind of like, I drove to work and I had my loops in the car, because my car's kind of a bit like sound, like air sound. Got to work and I took out my loops and I was like suddenly aware of the fact that I wasn't like stressed out of my mind. And I was like, what? So that means every morning I drive listening to that and I get to work and I'm so stressed, but I like was just used to being not stressed. Yeah. So I didn't think to question it.
Yeah.
So,
well, also with the earplugs, it's not just the sound sensitivity that's helping. Like, if you put your fingers and maybe a fucking earbud, something, a little bit of pressure inside your ear, like that activates the vagus nerve and then like calms your nervous system. Like, it's a nervous system hack.
Exactly. And to be honest, I think sometimes when I use them, I'm like, oh no, I just kind of like how that feels right now. Like, it just kind of feels quite nice to just have something there.
Well, it's like the door's closed. No little surprise visitors can go in there. You know, it's like their little, say you're in like the Wind in the Willows and you are the badger and your home is underground and there's like a round or like a Hobbit home kind of thing with like a round wooden door that's like a cork, and it just like closes. Your ears are like, you know, all tucked away in there. Feel safe.
Yeah.
You know, like nice and sheltered. Yeah. So it makes sense, you know?
It's very comforting. Yeah. So I mean, like, that's a really basic one. That one was one of the first things I did, because I was like, oh, I don't have to do any personal development. I can just buy earplugs. That helps.
Fuck yeah.
Which was kind of awesome.
Colored lensed glasses really help soothe the nervous system.
Really? Oh, I have pink glasses.
Regulation.
Oh, and my new glasses are orange and I love them. So maybe that's why.
That's a big, actually, I've still got to send you, I need to get them on as guests. It's been in the works for like a year, but I still need to send you that content by like, I think it's Kathy and Matt. They were like nervous system and like neuro specialists that I learned from in that Entrepreneur Accelerator.
Yeah.
And they did like a bunch of insane content around like nervous system hacks to like help regulate and stuff. And like some of them were actually just as simple as like, you know, the different colored lenses in your glasses. And it's just interesting because it's really sciencey way it works.
Totally. Yeah. It is very cool.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, a lot of them aren't like, they're not things you would expect.
Maybe. To make that much of a difference.
Yeah, to make that much of a difference, or even like you wouldn't even think of colored glasses.
No.
You know?
No.
So yeah, that is really cool. And I think what that's kind of led to is me getting better at understanding what I need. Because the thing is, if you have a lifetime of like ignoring your needs, when you get signals from your body, you're not used to interpreting them. So you're bad at interpreting them. So it's been really interesting to be like, okay, like here's the first step, even noticing agitation in your body. If it's there all the time, you're not going to notice that it's there, which is why yoga is so good for me, because it makes me tune in. So the more of the yoga I've been doing over the years, the more now I'm like, okay, my body's feeling like I'm fucking amped for some reason. And I'm just better now at going, okay, I'm thirsty. I'm a little bit too hot in this room and I'm feeling stressed because of a phone call I had 5 minutes ago. And I should probably just go have some water and take a break in the shade outside in the garden for 3 minutes and I will be better. And it's crazy just like being able to interpret the signals from your body or even pain. Like this is the other thing is honestly, a lot of the time, I will not even realize how much pain I'm in until I have an edible in the evening and my body finally gets relaxed and I go like, wow, my lower back has been holding on. So it's like this whole process of finally, it's like I'm starting to connect the dots with my body in a way I haven't and listen to it. And now it's like, yeah, I still have trouble with things that other people don't have trouble with, but I know what's going on. And I know that if I'm feeling really stressed and I go and sit on the floor of the shower for 10 minutes, with just with the hot water in my head and sit in silence, after that, I'll probably feel way better and I'll probably be able to function without spiraling into like an existential depressive spiral on the couch.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I have really had a hard time with that, like spiraling into existential depressive spirals. And it's now I'm like, oh, okay, it's because my brain's a supercomputer that is very sensitive to the outside world. So I need to like give it lots of time to shut down and give it things to focus on that are not like gonna send me into depressive spirals, you know?
Yeah, like you have to really curate and manage the input, all the sensory input.
Yeah.
Like lighting, sound, like, yeah.
And that's definitely part of it. And that's something that you can do that makes a huge impact. But one of the reasons I've been very, 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 very interested in meditation is because these teachers that I'm learning from, they live in the Himalayas and they were taught by this guru in the 70s. They're like these super cool old rock and roll, like yoga teaching women. They have like this beautiful long white hair. They're amazing.
Oh.
They're so smart. They're like exactly who you want to learn from.
The sound is so dope.
It's so good. I cannot wait to go visit them. Anyways, one of their kind of like main ways that they talk about meditation is they say that like that space that you access when you meditate is always present. You shouldn't need to control the outside world around you because newsflash, you can't control it and you won't always be able to control it. So it's really important to learn how to find balance in yourself. And that's made a huge difference for me. The other night, we went out on Thursday night to Jazz and Jaffles, which, by the way, was sick. It was so fun. The music was amazing. I was having the best time listening to it. But I was really anxious that night. And there was a certain point where we were like sitting in this booth full of like a bunch of like super lovely people that Freya knows who organized the event. But I was like, shit, there's a bunch of strangers. I'm anxious. And then I was like, hang on. Just close your eyes. And I did like literally like a maybe 20-second trying to find that sense that I find when I meditate. And when I opened my eyes, it was completely different. And that is why I am obsessed with meditation, because it's like, sure, I can wear loops, but sometimes I'm going to be in a noisy bar surrounded by strangers and I'm going to need to be calm enough to have a good time.
Yeah.
You know? So
I can't wait until you start teaching this type of meditation because it sounds like such a fucking weapon of a tool to like self-regulate, and like
it is.
I'm really keen to learn it. I feel like I don't relate to like a lot of the stuff all of my neurodivergent friends sort of tell me about their experience, but there's definitely stuff that I do relate to, and like sensory sensitivity can definitely be a thing for me. It really changes for me depending on how many spoons I've got though, and how tired I am and where I'm at in my cycle and like how drained my social battery is, or how like so many factors. So it's a little bit less predictable for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like sometimes I just feel like very sensitive to fucking everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, like would love just like some, even though like I know so many tools for this stuff, but I find it really hard to practice what I preach with regards to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I just haven't felt like I've had the energy to like work on myself hardcore, like since the breakup basically. I'm just like, even though now is when I need it the most, but I just like don't have the self-discipline right now. But super keen to like learn off you, and hopefully soon enough you'll Were you still planning on doing an online course with that, or starting to just run classes?
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to start recording classes and putting some of them up on YouTube free, and then putting some of them like behind like a tiny
Patreon or something.
Something like that. I haven't worked it out yet.
Yeah.
Because I do want to do like a really comprehensive course, but I would love to spend a few months in India with my teacher, recording interviews with her to be able to do that in a way that I'm happy with. You know, I don't want to make a course and then be like, and then go to India and be like, well, I should have waited like a year.
Yeah. No, that's good practice. Just starting to make videos.
So I'm just going to start making random shit because I always have cool ideas. I'm like, oh, I should have a meditation for this like really niche thing. Because like, I don't know about you, but I really like, if I want a yoga class, I usually have an idea of like what I want. So I'm like, okay, vinyasa sequence, like shoulders or 30 minutes, or like I feel like you can always find something really specific. And I want to make videos that are like targeted for things, not just like I don't know.
I'm such a I just want the full body the general full body flow. I'm like, my brain doesn't work the same. When I think of flows, I try to work every part of the body equally and then stretch every part of the body equally. But like, I think there's value for having both of those. Totally. When I have a neck injury, then I do YouTube, or Google neck flow, like neck yoga or whatever.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is, because I agree, I think that you do need generalist practices, but for me, a really good practice or a really good lesson is always tied together by like a framework or a philosophical idea, or like you need something, right? Because you need the lesson to feel like a lesson. Maybe it's general, but maybe you focus more on.
There's usually a peak pose and a focus on
right?
part of the body or whatever.
Totally. And if I think about the way that my teachers teach meditation, they pretty much, it's so funny. In this group, we're always like, damn, it feels like we come here and we hear the same thing every week, but like we realize different things. And it's because she says it in all these different ways. And I think that when you're communicating information, regardless of what it is, the more different ways you say it in, the more different ways people can connect with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I mean when I'm saying I want to do niche videos is I feel like what's lacking for me in a lot of yoga and meditation content online is it feels like I come away and I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of feel better, but I kind of feel like it was...
They don't go that deeply into each pose in terms of cueing
exactly. Or there's just there's no theme, there's no vibe, and sometimes it's good to be basic, but I think even a good teacher should in their mind go like, okay, I want a full body reset. I'm really going to focus on spine. And you just know that when you're making the video, you're not just fucking stringing random poses together or doing like 30 minutes of breath work, which is just like, very unintentional. Like, because people create breathwork classes all the time that I like. Of course, I'm going to be a total snob about them.
That's so funny.
And I just feel like you need to understand what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I need you to start making those videos.
Anyways, clearly I have a lot to say about it. I should probably just make some videos.
Yeah. I have been badgering you to do it for like 2 years. Totally. It's going to happen.
Totally. No, I'm going to start making some in the new year for sure.
Oh, cool. So, is there any other, obviously there's so much more to say on that neurodivergent stuff, but, I'm struggling to think of, a specific question or talking point right now. I'm sweating a lot in this bath. What else? Otherwise, we can head to the next topic whenever you're ready.
I think what's been really cool is...
Excuse this quick interruption. I'm shamelessly seeking reviews and 5-star ratings for the potty because, as I'm sure you've noticed by now, it's pretty fab, and the more people who get to hear it, the more people I can help with it. Reviews and ratings actually do make a big difference to this little independent podcaster, and it's really easy to just quickly show your support by taking that simple act of either leaving 5 stars for the show on Spotify, or even better, writing a written review and leaving 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're a real overachiever, you can do them both. That would be mad. If you're writing a review, though, just be sure to use G-rated words, because despite the fact that this is a podcast about sexuality, words like sex can be censored and your review won't make it through the gates. Lame. Anyway, I would personally recommend doing that right now while you remember, just to get on top of it and let me know you're with me on this journey. Thanks, gang. Enjoy the rest of the epi.
Working out how to enjoy my brain.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's positives too. I think that everyone's experience is different, and everyone's got things that like are more for them.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like it's really worth working out what's going on in your brain, even if you're just like, you know, run-of-the-mill person who's losing their shit because we're in the 21st century and it's a disaster out here.
Life. Oh, life. Oh, life.
I just feel like even if you're that person, just it's so worth it. Like, I just feel like it's always worth it to try and help your brain.
Yeah.
Because you live in there.
You live in there.
You live in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surviving in there. Barely. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you feel like
I feel like we've spoken about so much more with regards to this, but I can't pull it to mind right now.
Okay. Has it been more just like anecdotes about how things feel for me or how things are for me, or has it been more like things that I do that I'm doing differently now?
Both. I think it's just so interesting to me because, like, it's the sort of stuff that I don't, like, when you come to me and you're like, hey, so, like, do you also pay attention to, like, how much eye contact you're giving someone, or, like, that's the only example I have right now, but, like, you're often like, oh, like, is this a me thing? Is this a neurodivergent thing? Or is this an everyone thing? And a lot of the time I'm like, no, I don't notice that personally.
Yeah.
I don't. There's been a few things where I'm like, oh, no, that's something that's just an organic thing that I just don't really pay that much attention to. Often it's like social things, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I think one example today is, like, you were putting the batteries in this mic, and I was like, oh, those batteries are the wrong way. And you were like, no, they're not. And then I was like, oh, the way they've been painted looks different to the Duracell and Energizer battery, because those batteries are painted like this. And you looked at me like, what the fuck? Like, why are you telling me how the Duracell battery is painted? And for me, it just feels like when I look at things, there's just an overwhelming amount of information everywhere. So I think that's part of what's so overwhelming about being in my brain that I've kind of worked out that other people don't do. This is the crazy thing, is to realize that, like, okay, here's a really, maybe you'll appreciate this example. So on the weekend, one of my favorite things to do has been to, like, do cute table settings. Because when you're having dinner with friends, it's a great time to, like, light a candle, get some flowers out, right? Everyone thinks that's cute. But, like, I love making it, like, max cute. Like, really fucking...
Well, like 6 candles cute, because I got that.
Yeah,
girl.
it's popping off in here.
It's popping off in here. You are welcome.
It's good. It's
and
good.
Did you notice there's rose petals in the bar?
Yeah, I noticed it smells amazing.
Yeah, boo.
Got you.
Oh, no, sorry. Dinner table cute.
Oh, yeah, cute dinner table. Okay. So anyways, I was like, oh, tomorrow night, if it's okay, I was talking to, like, one of the girls. I was like, I'm going to get the seals and the eagles out of your room. And she was looking at me, like, to decorate the table. She was like, she didn't even know what I meant. And I was like, oh, on your bookshelf in there, you have 4 ceramic eagles and 3 ceramic seals. And she was like, oh, yeah, sorry, I guess I just didn't count all of the ceramic figurines in the house. And I was like, that's okay, I did it for you. Like, there's in your room, there's 4 seagulls and there's 4 eagles and there's 3 seals. And in that moment, I was like, isn't that weird that that's just what my brain does? I walk around an Airbnb. I was like, oh, which bedroom should we sleep in? I glanced in all the bedrooms and somehow I logged that away.
Whoa.
And so it feels like I didn't know that other people's brains weren't saving all this either.
You said something in response to the battery, because I was like, oh, I just don't, I don't think I've ever paid attention to what the batteries look like. And you said, like...
And then I was like, oh, yeah, that's just my brain, like, saving data that I don't need.
Yeah. Dude, it's so wild, because I am not observant. I've gotten less and less observant. It's like my brain's a saturated sponge that can barely take any more information in. So anything that's not absolutely essential to my fucking survival in that moment, I don't pay attention to. So I would be the worst eyewitness, because I don't even remember, like... I don't even remember. Like, it's wild. I just don't pay attention to shit like that. And, yeah, so and that feels very much like something that is a lot more pronounced the older I get. But I think it's more because it's, like, the more dysregulated I get.
That's a huge thing, of course. Your brain can't, like, do shit it doesn't need to do. It's already trying to do the shit it's doing. Do you know what I mean?
And, like, I feel like it's so much hard, like, for a number of reasons, just the amount of, like, screen time, the, you know, burnout and the like instability, uncertainty, stress, blah, 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 has meant that like, I just like, it's taking all of my bandwidth and more just to like survive and do the bare minimum. And I've really noticed, I'm like, whoa, okay. Stuff that I used to just do on autopilot that was not hard for me. And I used to not relate to people when they're like, oh, I just can't like, I can't get around. I can't like, you know, cook for myself regularly, like having to go shopping and figure out what you're going to cook and like know what ingredients you have to buy and then actually cook the thing. And then, I loved cooking and going food shopping. And I used to like do it hard. Like I would get so excited about like I was obsessed with food and I was studying cooking, I guess. But like even before that and after that, I would look through recipe books for fun and just like plan different meals I was going to cook that week and like get all the ingredients. And it was like a really fun therapeutic thing to me. Now I cannot think of anything worse than going to a supermarket and having to think about what to cook and then actually cooking it.
Yeah.
Fucking sometimes even eating feels hard.
Yeah.
So it's like,
totally.
whoa, okay, that's
sure.
like not a personality thing. I've always been into cooking and like quite good at adulting and doing, you know, I moved out of home when I was like 17 and I like built a fucking house with my boyfriend when I was 18. Like I've been at least attempting adulting since pretty young. I've been very independent and now I'm like the least independent. I'm just like,
well, you're
struggling.
just tired. You're burnt out, right? Like you're burnt out. It makes so much sense.
But I'm like, how much of that is like maybe some sort of neurodivergence that's finally catching up with me that I can't mask anymore? Or like how much of my sensory sensitivity or my sort of like low bandwidth, low spoons, maybe I'm just a sensitive person and I'm just dysregulated. Or maybe it's actually like I'm finally becoming aware of, like you did, of like the fact that you are actually trying to make your brain operate in a way that it's not designed to, in systems it's not designed to.
Totally. Yeah, it might be. And it's so hard to tell, you know, like what it is. And also I think, you know, even in the absence of, even for the average person, in the absence of neurodivergence, if you put yourself in situations where, you know, like you're traumatized or you're constantly pushed past your limits, your energetic limits. I know that sounds woo-woo, your energetic limits, but think about it. If you're someone who doesn't sleep well, doesn't eat well, and always feels stressed and rushed, chances are you're outside of your energetic limits. Like you're not resting enough to keep yourself alive in a healthy way. You know what I mean? That has a cost.
Or even if you are eating healthy and doing all, like, if you're stressed, that is enough. If you have trauma, that is enough.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You know,
so it's really, and this is the thing, is like, not everyone's neurodivergent, but also not everyone's traumatized or not everyone's burnt out. You have to work out what's going on in your head. Maybe it's all three. Yay, love that for me. But you have to just work out what your thing is, you know?
Yeah, fuck. It's really tricky.
And the thing is, a lot of people, because the world is a very stressful place to live in right now. This is like one of my favorite rants to go on, is like, think about this insane world we live in, and then think about like what the world looked like before we demolished everything and put cities in. It was like, you know, trees and food and plants and water, and like we're kind of just evolved to live somewhere where there's bird sounds and running water and you can kind of eat shit and play with sticks, and you know, and now here we are in this urban jungle where we're like, why am I stressed all the time? It's like you spend all of your life looking at a blue screen and you are constantly at the will of like this crazy urban jungle.
Industrial complex that's trying to basically like commodify your attention.
Exactly. Commodifying your attention, and your self-worth is determined by how much you can feed back into the machine. So look, like it's fucked out there, and this is the thing, is like not everyone's neurodivergent, but a lot of people are dealing with problems where you might as well be neurodivergent because you'll probably end up getting overstimulated anyways, you know? Like you might not have a sensory sensitivity, but like if you live, you know, like right next to a train line where you hear the train like literally all the fucking time, you might be really dysregulated in your body from that sound.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't have to be autistic for that to happen. That's just like everyone's struggling as a consequence of this like world we've built, you know? And here's the thing, if you work out that that's what it is, well, that's still positive, because then you can take some steps to make your life better. So I just think it's just so good to figure out what's going on, try some things, work out how to help yourself rather than judge yourself, you know?
Yeah. I mean, fuck, I don't know what, like, I feel like I'm so burnt out that I don't even have the spoons to implement the things that I know will be helpful and good for me.
Yeah.
And once you get to that point, that's pretty tricky. But
it's really hard. It's really hard. And this is the thing is like, you're asking someone who's kind of at their wit's end because their life's really hard to do all this work.
Yeah.
That like the average person can't be fucked doing, because like doing all of this like therapy and metacognition and self-development, it takes energy. It's not easy. It's kind of like you kind of get stuck. You kind of get bored.
And
you
when
kind of
you're
get
so
stressed.
stressed,
Like it's
to add that on top, like to do all that self-work when you're so fucking stressed, but to get unstressed, you need to do the work. It's like,
totally.
oh my God. Yeah, it's hectic. It's so, like, when people have, like, emotional privilege, you know, not too much trauma, like, they've got, like, really great support networks, and they've sort of got, like, all of this privilege, you know, maybe, like, neurotypical privilege. It's just like, whoa, I hope you're fucking grateful for me. Because I can imagine what I'd be capable of if I had all that kind of, like, emotional and sort of, all that privilege. But, what, real quick, I feel like I've seen somewhere recently we shouldn't be using the term neurotypical anymore.
I don't know. I think that with all of this stuff, all this language, you know, whether you're talking about disability or, well, you know, like LGBTQIA plus or whatever you're talking about, or race, you know, or gender, I think that there's all of this new language that comes in and out of fashion. And I think if you are trying to use it in a way that's mindful, I don't really think that's the issue. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different opinions, and I don't really think it's a set thing of like, you shouldn't say, what did you say? Shouldn't say neurotypical? Look, maybe, but I kind of feel like that's the thing where, like, I heard a podcast recently. One of my favorite podcasts is called AuDHD, and the episode was about disability. And actually, I don't remember what the ology for disability is. It's like some kind of fancy word. And
because it's about things that end in ology.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like blah blah ology, where it means disability.
Okay.
Wait, what was I saying? Privilege. Fuck, I was gonna say something so smart.
No, we'll get it back. We'll get it back.
Movie?
It was on your podcast. They were.
Where was I coming from? What was my sentence?
What did I say
before this? Oh no, now we're lost.
Fuck. Shit.
hang on.
Meditate, babe.
Okay.
Oh, we can't say neurotypical.
Oh, yes, you can't say neurotypical. Okay, so I heard this conversation on this podcast where they were talking about whether you should say people with a disability or disabled people. And there's this whole thing of like, you know, people have strong opinions about which one you should use. But I kind of feel like the overarching takeaway from that particular part of the conversation was like, not everyone agrees. You just have to really try and be respectful with what you say. And if you accidentally say the wrong thing, it's actually not that big a deal. It's more about like the intention behind it. Yeah. And if you say the wrong thing and someone says, oh, like, I actually prefer this, you can be like, okay, like, and you just, you know, don't make it a big deal and take it on board. Yeah. So I kind of feel like maybe there's something about neurotypical. I haven't heard it.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it was saying it's like really ableist. I don't know. I literally lose track because there's so many differing, and it changes so fast. Like things come in and out of fashion to say, well, I don't know if you could call it fashion, but you know, like you were saying, there's trends, and then like word trends. They're like words that are cool and or like, you know, okay,
and then it's like, oh, there's
easy or cancel culture swoops in and it's like, no, we've got some reasons why that's not cool, and that's like, okay, cool, but like there's one recently, I don't know, and I think that, you know, and I've talked about this on the podcast quite a lot before in the gender episode and in a few different episodes around like privilege and race and whatever, but it's like there's this big fear about offending someone or harming people, but someone sort of said to me, well, actually that's often like still coming from kind of a selfish place because you just don't want to feel bad or uncomfortable from making someone else feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I mean, overall I want to minimize harm to all parties involved, and there's so many arguments around this that just make me feel like I'm fucking going in circles and I can't win. But I mean, I think it is a little bit like, what were you going to say? I think it is a little bit like that. Like, I legitimately a little bit think you can't win because you can't do something that everyone on earth is going to agree with. I really think that
the problem is not like nitpicking stuff like that. The problem is like getting everyone to like respect everyone and hear everyone else's opinions. And, you know, I kind of feel like, but what were you going to say?
People get hung up on the words and they're not even
do.
like listening to the actual intent behind it and like the things that you want to get across about that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it can position them against you immediately.
Exactly. And we don't want that. I really think that it's so important. I think position them against you is a great way to say it, because I think with any kind of thing where you're trying to, where there's communication between essentially two groups of people that do one thing and people that do another, or people whose brains are one way and people whose brains are another, or people who like are black and people who are white. There's already sense of division. It's really important to try and like stay on the same team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And this is actually so... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you go.
Oh, it's just really interesting because, like, I don't think you've heard it, but, like, the Tub Talks, the first one I did with Max, we ended up talking about a similar stuff around race and, like, privilege and...
Yeah.
Because, like, Max... Yeah, and then I did a whole episode unpacking it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I sent you that, actually, and you were like... Oh, you gave me feedback.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so, yeah, it's interesting. So, yeah, anything else with regards to, like, the neurodivergent journey?
Well, I mean, on the language thing, you know, you hear, I don't know if you've heard this one, there's like, it's contentious of like if you should say autistic person or person with autism.
Yeah, same with like heaps of stuff.
So, yeah.
Disabled person or person with a
exactly,
disability.
that one, yeah. I feel like right now it's trendy to say person with something. Person experiencing homelessness, you know, person with a disability.
It's centering the person.
Person first language, which I really understand, but I really don't think it's, if you want to use it the other way around, I think you can. Because, like, for me personally, I think of myself as, like, an autistic person, because being autistic is my brain. It's me. It's right in the center of me. So I want it to be centered, because I also feel like then people get it. Because it's like, this is something you need to know, you know? So
it's probably a really personal choice.
Exactly, I think it is. And I think that that's why you can't make everyone happy. And as long as you're being respectful, if one person says one thing and one person says another, there shouldn't be any problem, you know?
Yeah, I mean, also, I feel like I have said this too, and it's such a, like, sure, it's such a, like, privileged thing to say, coming from a perspective where, like, I don't, you know, live with a disability or racism directed towards me or whatever. But I don't get why it's a fucking big deal.
I know.
Like, it's just words.
I know.
And it's, for me, it's about the tone of voice, the expression on their face, their intention. Yeah. Do they mean well? Is it like, because I hate, you know, the sort of like fixating, like hovering, getting ready to like pounce and then fixating on like semantics.
Yeah.
It's like that person is like, you know, like look at the context. Are they a fucking misogynist or like homophobic or sort of like ableist fuckface? or do you think you could maybe let it slide that they said disabled person as opposed to person with a disability? You know, like,
yeah, totally.
Fucking hell, totally, you know? But then it's like, I also don't know what it's like to be disabled. Maybe I wouldn't care about it.
Yeah, and I guess the thing is, I think that a lot of the time when that happens, it's not really about the incident, right? It's about this whole thing that microaggressions over time feel like a big aggression. So maybe the way you respond to one person's comment isn't actually how you feel about that. It's all this, you know, it's all this anger that you're finally letting out.
I mean, yeah, the cumulative, you know, kind of like build up.
Yeah.
I know like Tuck on their episode about gender, Tuck was my guest, who's trans, queer, sex coach and educator, and they were just like, yeah, you know, if people get your pronouns wrong in isolation, those are like tiny little things, but it's like scratching the same little bit of your skin over and over and over again till it turns into a scab, and then you're picking the scab, and then, you know, it's cumulative. So like all of these little things wind up feeling like a bigger deal because, you know, they've lived their whole fucking life. And and I get that with other things. Like, I just feel like it's really difficult not to, like, a really, like, common example that's on a bit of a, like, a bit more general is when, you know, we're really encouraged not to superimpose our exes on our new lovers and like treat them with being informed by the traumas inflicted by past people.
Right.
Because they're a new person with totally different intentions and they treat you differently, and like it's not really fair for them to be sort of suffering treatment that they didn't earn or like deserve or whatever. So but it is really tricky if you have a bunch of trauma or you have trust issues based on people betraying you. And, you know, you do sort of, maybe you've got attachment wounds or whatever. Like it can be it needs to be a very conscious, like intentional process to not basically like punish your new lover for shit that men did to you in the past or whatever, for instance. Yeah, because it's cumulative and like even just like, the like 50th fucking time someone found out what I do for work and had a particular kind of reaction, or just like, you know, I'm so intolerant now because it's been years of like fielding.
You're sick of it.
That sort of stuff. So,
Totally.
Yeah. Anyway.
Hey, me again. If you'd like to support the potty and you've already given it 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening on, I want to mention that you can buy some really dope merch from the website and get yourself a Labia Lounge tote, tee, togs. Yep, you heard that right. I even have Labia Lounge bathers. Or a cute fanny pack if that'd blow your hair back. So if fashion isn't your passion though, you can donate to my Buy Me a Coffee donation page, which is actually called Buy Me a Soy Chai Latte, because I'll be the first to admit, I'm a bit of a Melbourne cafe tosser like that. And yes, that is my coffee order. You can do a once-off donation or an ongoing membership and sponsor me for as little as 3 fat ones a month. And I also offer one-on-one coaching and online courses that'll help you level up your sex life and relationship with yourself and others in a really big way. So every bit helps, because it ain't cheap to put out a sweet podcast into the world every week out of my own pocket. So I will be undyingly grateful if you support me and my biz financially in any of these ways. And if you like, I'll even give you a mental BJ with my mind from the lounge itself. Saucy. And I'll pop the links in the show notes. Thank you. Later.
Cool. Do you want to have a little like break, get another drink?
Yeah.
And then we
take
can
a break.
Launch into
Part 2.
part 3. We'll talk about the miscarriage. Anything you want to like wrap a bow on this episode with, like say it's like the final thing that gets said before my outro kind of thing, to like most of the time I just end them so abruptly because like the recorder's died or like we just fucking stopped talking about anything relevant, so I just have to like cut it and it's very abrupt.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think I want to say I feel like there is this idea going around of like people eye rolling going, fucking everyone's neurodivergent these days.
Yeah, totally.
And like more people are getting diagnosed. And it, for me, did really feel like I was really resistant to a diagnosis because I was like, here I am just fucking jumping on bandwagon like everyone else.
Yep.
But I think that it's worth, whoever you are, whether you're neurodivergent or not, thinking about how your brain works and what your challenges are, because I think that we're discovering now there are a lot of really brilliant people who are very dysregulated and tortured because they just haven't got the right tools. Yeah. And maybe your tools aren't the autistic ADHD tools that I like to use, but maybe there's something else. And I feel like I can figure it out. And the other thing is, if you are neurodivergent, you've got a cool brain and it can do cool stuff, even if you feel useless all the time. Because I definitely feel like that a lot. Seriously, like I've had days where I just feel like I don't know, like I'm in a cloud the whole day and I can't seem to move or accomplish anything. So it sucks to feel like that, but you have to work out what your brain is good at. Because if your brain's crazy and it remembers what all of the different battery brands look like, there's a chance that it can remember some cool shit that might help you be really good at something. So you just got to work out what that thing is for you. Whoever you are out there.
Fuck yeah. Mic drop. I love that. Yeah, and I think just being, even if you are pretty certain you're neurotypical, if that's the fucking acceptable word, you might have a friend or a relative or a child, or a parent who, like, is undiagnosed or diagnosed, and like you just would benefit from understanding a lot better
Yeah,
how
totally.
they work and how you can work with them to kind of take the load off them from constantly having to mask and like hold themselves to the standards and expectations and like behavioral kind of scripts that the mainstream neurotypical sort of people expect.
Yeah.
It's exhausting and they'll end up fucking burnt out. So just like, yeah, getting a little bit informed about it. And, you know, because I think it's good to be trauma informed. It's good to be like, you know, neurospice informed. It's good. I mean, it's just good to kind of understand a little bit about all of this stuff because you'll have people around you that will like really appreciate you being understanding in a safe space and sort of like making an effort to kind of attune to them for once because like, you know, generally people on the spectrum or with a neurodivergent brain have to fucking force themselves to fit inside our box and our expectations and like always do the emotional and mental labor so that we're comfortable because otherwise we would be thinking they're weird or like not know how to sort of handle their behavior or whatever. So
Yeah. And you know what? I will just interject here because this, what you've just said is something that me and my friend Neve, who's also autistic ADHD, talk about all the time. We're like, here we are, we're fucking autistic, we're struggling, and we're getting labeled as having like some kind of social deficiency when really, in reality, look at all this social work that I'm doing constantly and no one seems to care enough or notice enough to try to cater to my needs. So it's like, okay, maybe I don't naturally know how to give eye contact, but it feels like just putting the label of, and now the DSM, which is, you know, the diagnostic criteria, the DSM criteria has changed so that it doesn't say social deficiency, it says social difference, which is what it is. It's not a deficiency in like social processing. It's just like, you're doing it different.
Mm-hmm.
You're speaking a different language. And I think it's so open to keep an open mind if you yourself are neurodivergent to not like shame yourself for it. And if you know someone who's neurodivergent, to keep an open mind as to like what that means for them and to not kind of just assume that that means that their life will be worse or less or, you know, not as meaningful or, you know, good as a neurotypical person's life. And I think that a really nice note that I can just leave this on is I have a really close childhood friend, actually from the last episode, the one we went to Bali together. She has had 2 kids and one of her kids is displaying some traits of neurodivergence and the school has notified her and, you know, she's in the process of getting her tested. And it was so cool to talk to my friend about this because my friend was just saying, I just really want her to do well. Like, I want her to be happy in school. I want her to be like a happy kid. I don't want her to feel anxious. So like, I'm just going to do whatever I can do to help her. And that's the right attitude to have, you know, like she didn't have the attitude that a lot of parents have, which is like it's almost like they don't want to believe that their kid could have something quote unquote wrong with them.
A disability or an intellectual.
Exactly. Yeah. And my brother is a psychologist and he works on diagnosing kids like this. And he said sometimes the hardest part's like the parent's reaction to the kid's diagnosis because we have all these like prejudices about what that means. And, you know, all of this ableist language, you know, suggesting that if you have something different about your brain, you're like less than, or you're dumb, or you're handicapped, or, you know, it's like, it's kind of just, I think that's one of the biggest parts of the problem. So I think
it's a lack of understanding from us neurotypical. Well, I don't even know if I fit into the category of neurotypical, but it's a lack of understanding and like therefore empathy and compassion from like neurotypical folk.
Yeah.
If people understood, if it was like common knowledge, you know, if it was included in like our kind of EQ, like our emotional intelligence, to kind of just, you know, understand a little bit more about neurodivergent needs and disabled needs, like it would just be so different. You wouldn't feel the need to fucking mask as much. You wouldn't be, you know, it would be so different. So
it would be really different.
Yeah.
So I think.
And we're getting there. I mean,
yeah, we totally are, which is why I shared that story about my friend, because I think that compared to, you know, when people had kids 20 years ago and the doctor goes, oh, your kid has dyslexia, which, you know, some might say, oh, dyslexia, it's, you know, it's a learning, it's not like a social kind of disability. But even something like that, or even being left-handed, the parents are like, no, you're not. You know, like there's this pressure to be like this perfect, you know, like white Christian capitalist machine who has nothing wrong with you. But like, you know, if you can just kind of keep an open mind and be like, okay, my kid has X, that means that they might struggle with this, but they might actually be adapting at this, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You know?
And we'll just like adapt accordingly how we run things in the household and how we help offer them learning opportunities.
Totally.
And
that's not to undermine how much work this is, but I guess the idea is that in general, it's nice to approach neurodivergence with the sense of like curiosity about like, what might this mean? And what can I learn here? Rather than like a sense of, you know, like,
oh no, it's malfunctioning. It's defunct.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Exactly. So whether that's going on in your brain or someone else's brain, it's, I think, cool to think about it like that.
Fucking oath. I think that's a wrap. That was an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for being really like generous with all your thoughts, and also just very vulnerable, talking about like how fucking rough it gets sometimes.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
That's all right. Thanks for the chat.
And that's it, darling hearts. Thanks for stopping by the Labia Lounge. Your bum groove in the couch will be right where you left it, just waiting for you to sink back in for some more double L action next time. If you'd be a dear and subscribe, share this episode, or leave a review on iTunes, then you can pat yourself on the snatch, because that's a downright act of sex-positive feminist activism, and you'd be supporting my vision to educate, empower, demystify, and destigmatize with this here podcast. I'm also always open to feedback, topic ideas that you'd love to hear covered, questions or guest suggestions, so feel free to get in touch via my website or over on Insta. You can also send me in TMI stories to be shared anonymously on the pod. My handle is FreyaGraff_the Labia Lounge, if my account hasn't been deleted for being too sex positive, which, you know, is always a possibility with censorship. But just in case the chronic censorship finally does obliterate my social channels, I'd highly recommend going and joining my mailing list and snagging yourself some fun freebies for the trouble at www.freyagraff.com/freebies. Anyway, later, labial legends. See you next time.